Good day, everyone. Welcome to my simple world. So, for today's podcast, I interviewed a grade 7 language teacher. She is Miss Shaina Estrebor, currently teaching at College of San Benildo, Rizal in Sumulong Highway. As part of my interview, I sent her two sets of questions, and the first set of question is about her ideas on language learning. And the second question is about the difficulties and adaptation in language learning materials. My first question is, as a language teacher, how do you select learning materials in teaching literature? And she answered this. She aligned her topics based on the most essential learning competencies or MELCs provided by the DepEd. In selecting learning materials, she makes use of those tools that are easy to navigate and easy to use by the students. Given the fact that her current school has its LMs, she is also utilizing some gamified apps as her formative assessment and during the engagement. The second question is, what are your best practices or techniques in teaching literature? She highlighted that all techniques or practices are best. It depends on our strategy and it depends on the literature that we are going to discuss. For her, she is letting her students use listening and viewing skills in synchronous and reading and writing in asynchronous. So it depends on the objectives in a certain topic. In addition, she is making sure that her instructions are clear so that her students are well guided in the activity regardless if it is synchronous or asynchronous. The third question, what are the tech-based materials available in your classroom? In her experience, she is using some gamified activities for some of her students such as Kahoot, Quizizz, and Nearpad. In addition, she makes activity sheets that are well suited to her objectives. In her class, her students are doing their activities during their live session guided by the instructions and the time given for a certain activity. Then, in their asynchronous time, Ms. Estrebor's students are tasked to finalize their output since it is expected that some students are not fast learners. Last part of the part 1 is how do you adapt learning materials? She replied that she is using the prescribed book from the school that guides her when it comes to the content of the topic. When it comes to the student's activity, she creates her own activity sheets while maximizing use of their LMs. Also, those activities that are created by her have scoring rubrics so that the students will be guided on what to include in the activity. For the second part, have you developed your own learning materials? And she answered yes. She designs her learning materials based on the latest competencies from DepEd. They only have books that are fitted to the face-to-face learning and she uses it and just modify some of the guides for the teachers. Also, modification of the activities is still in the process after she had taught the topic to her first class because students are diverse. She makes sure that her materials are fitted to all. Second question, what are the major difficulties you encounter in developing language learning materials? Some of the major difficulties that she is encountering are students are not responsive. Their internet connection is weak, and we are all aware of that, right? And students' focus is not consistent since there are disturbing noises and sounds everywhere. It's like this one. Do you hear it? The reason why those are the major difficulties that she is encountering is because her students are grade 7. They are in the transition period. Also, the rapid change of the teaching and learning process has an effect to the performance of the students. Their attention is diverted into different things that they are seeing on their screens. For the last question, do you localize your learning materials given by the DepEd? And she answered, yes. For the students to be able to relate to what is being talked about, you have to localize learning materials given by the DepEd. Since grade 7 is into Filipino literature, it is very easy on her part to make modification to some topics that will make it more localized and the students can relate to it. In that way, they can easily share their ideas and thoughts with the class. It is highly encouraged that teachers should apply localization in their topics. So, that would be all for our podcast for today. I learned and I know you learned. So again, this is Jeremy Lubrico. Welcome to my simple world. Signing off.